In this video, I'm going to show you what to do with the expenses center on the menu. So over on our left menu, we see expenses, but let's see what's there and how you can use it to your benefit. Okay, so let's click on it. Notice the submenu shows up. It still says expenses. Either way, you'll get to the same place. So we're going to click expenses, and now we're at our expense transactions list. This list will include bills that you've created, expenses that you've created, purchase orders. So things like that, they will be on this list. Now, notice on the left side, it says as of the last 365 days. So sometimes you might be looking for something and it's cut it off because it was only showing it for the last 365 days. So that is something to note, because you might be trying to find it and you know it's on here, it's in here somewhere. So we're going to look at the filter options in a minute, but click filter. Let's change to dates and then all dates. All dates. And now we know, okay, we're going to see everything. So notice that we are seeing 63 transactions. And let's see what we have here. So let's look at this expense. On August 29th, we had an expense for this squeaky clean car wash for $19.99, and it's been categorized into the automobile section. Okay, so, and if you include a memo, then that will show up here as well. So let's say we want to see more about this, or we want to make a change, update it somehow. So you could either click the blue view edit, or you can just click right on the row. So either way, view edit or just click and it will open up, and now you can make any changes that you need to. So let's say maybe there was a typo for the check number. It's really not that number, it's this. So we can change any changes you need to make. You can do that, and then we'll go ahead and click save and close. So that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to update the check number. Now we'll save and close in the bottom corner. Okay, and notice the number is updated. So now we can see that correctly here. All right, so if you're someone that likes to work with Excel, this is also a table. So like you can Excel, you can have tables where you can filter and sort the table. You could do that here. You can sort it and you could filter it. Okay, so let's see all the way to the bottom. A nice feature is a total row, or total row. Here we've got our total row, and this is showing the row for everything on this page. So let's say you have a lot of transactions and it's multiple pages, then it will just show you the total for this page, what's on this list that we see here. All right, now let's see what we can do with this total. What's a great feature is you can check off certain rows, and then the total will update to give you the total just for those rows. So let's do that. So let's check, maybe we'll want to see these two. We're going to check off these two rows, and we don't want to pull out the calculator and add that up. And we don't want to do mental math. So let's just scroll to the bottom, and there it is. It calculated the total for you. That can be a big time saver, but this is also great if you're trying to resolve something. You're trying to fix something, you're in the middle of reconciling and something's not quite making sense. So coming over to the expense area of the menu in your QuickBooks can really help you with finding answers to questions about your expenses. So maybe something was entered incorrectly and that's why it's not working out, is you come over here and you can see that something needs to be fixed. Maybe on your, let's see, another common scenario could be, let's say that you have this, notice this Robertson and Associates. Let's say that we see a $250 here and $300 here. So maybe on the bank statement, we don't see those amounts. We see that we paid Robertson and Associates, but we don't find those amounts. So these are pretty easy numbers, but something that could be a common situation is check off those rows and see what the total is. And maybe this is the number that's on your bank statement. So maybe you paid them for both amounts at once. And so that's what you see on the bank statement, but maybe you entered it into your QuickBooks as the two separate transactions. So situations like that, those things can happen. So things that you're trying to figure out or find answers, resolve things, you might be able to resolve it or find the answer over here in the expense center. Okay, so another thing to point out is notice that the bill is here for $300, but the payment for the bill is on the next row. It's on a separate row. So that's something to note because not every software does that. Maybe you've been using Excel for your business, so you weren't doing things that way. So that's something that could be a little different to kind of take note of, that the payment for the bill is recorded and shown as a separate row. QuickBooks has it linked. So QuickBooks understands this is paying that bill, but it's just listed as a separate row. That can be handy if you just want to click right into get right to the payment to fix something of the payment itself. And you'll notice that it's 300 twice, but one's positive, one's negative. So that way it's showing this is the payment of the bill. Now, another thing about that though is this just worked out nicely that the rows are next to each other, that the bill payment is right next to the bill. That's great. That doesn't happen all the time though, because notice this was the only thing in April and the only one in May, so they just ended up next to each other. But if you had more transactions in April and May, then this row, the row for the payment could be farther down on the list than the bill itself. So notice here's a bill, but the payment for this bill is somewhere up here. You know, it's somewhere up on this list because you paid it on a later date. That's because we're looking at the table by date. So it's just giving us the order of date. So the bill happened on one day, and then a month later, the payment happened. So the bill and payment rows got separated. But if you were to click into it, so where did that go? We'll click into this bill. But it does show that it was paid. So on the right side, we can see it was paid, and here's the link to the payment. So even though on the table, they weren't next to each other, which would be great, but they weren't next to each other on the table, but they are linked here. So that's good to know. We can come in here and just make sure, and there's the link to the payment for this bill. So there it is. All right, so here the payment was August 17th. So here's their bill for July, but it's not until August 17th that we actually come across, where is it? And now we come across the actual bill payments for it. So then it's all the way up here just because it's ordered in order of date. So that leads us to sorting this table, because let's say that's not helpful for what we're trying to do. We don't want to see it by the date. Let's say we want to see it by the payee. So if we click on the word payee, it will give you an alphabetized list of all our transactions with a payee. If you didn't include a payee, you didn't say who the payee was, then it will just be blank, and it'll put all the blank rows all together. So all those blank rows could be for different vendors, but they just didn't have a payee, so they got listed together because they were blank. But if you include a payee, then you can see it all categorized or ordered nicely. And then we can see, so let's look at that Cal telephone. Now we can see it all together. So we can see the July bill and the August payment for that bill. It's not far away from each other now. Now they're grouped together by the payee or the vendor. Let's say that you're trying to figure something out, but you're trying to find something or resolve something, but it's to do with your bills. So you only need to see bills right now. You could click type, and then it will group them all by their type. So here now we can see all the bills together, and then it will sort our list so we can get all those other expenses out of the way and just look at the bills. All right, so I did that just by clicking the word type. Maybe you want to click number to see you're looking for a certain number, or you think that there should be something in between these two. So you want to see them in order to see if there's something that's missing. All right, if you want to, this I use regularly if I'm trying to fix something. You can click category and you can have them all in order by their category in alphabetical order. And now if they're split, you can't see that part, but if they're not split, then you can see right away what's the category. All right. And then that helps us also too, because then we can see, oh, there's a few miscellaneous transactions. So maybe we need to fix that and give it a transaction or give it a category. All right. And then another one is the total. So if you want to see maybe your largest expense total, or you want to see the bill. So notice the bills are positive numbers and then the bill payment were the negative numbers. So this is where we could see if we're trying to find something or figure something out, this could be helpful. All right, so our next step, we looked at sorting the table, but what if we need to filter it? This was by sorting, we're just still seeing everything on the list, but it's just now in order by whichever column we clicked on. But let's say I don't want to do that. I just want to see bills only. I don't want to see I don't want to order the list. I just only want to see bills. So, and that could be very helpful if you've got a lot of transactions. So you just only want to have bills on this list for right now. So let's come over to the filter button on the left. And here we have different filtering options. So we could say, I want to filter by the type. So here, I just want to see bills. I don't want to see anything else but bills. And I want to see it for all dates. All dates that just anything that I have in QuickBooks that's a bill. Let's click the green apply. And now it's filtered it, so we only see bills, and that's it. So that's great. And then we can see right away a total for those bills without having to check all the rows for the bills. It gives us, and then we can still select certain ones to have it calculate the total. Okay. All right, so our next thing on the filter is, let's go back to all transactions. Let's say we want to see all transactions, but we want to see the bills that are maybe overdue, what's been paid, the ones that are open. So you can select anything like that. You can also click this blue link of if you want to include in your list things that have been deleted or voided. So if you want to have that included in your list, you could choose that. Let's say you only want to see expense transactions from, let's see, this quarter. You just want to see this quarter. And you want to see it for a specific payee. So you could select a specific payee. Now notice when you select this, we're in the expense area, but it's giving us at first the list of the customers. So watch out for that. It might tell you the vendors right away, but in this case, they were showing us customers first. So we're gonna have to keep going until we see vendors on the right. So now we're in our vendor list, and then you could select whatever payee that you're trying to look for. So then let's click apply. Okay, so apparently in this quarter, I did not spend any money for this person. And again, this is just a pretend company, so these are not real transactions. Okay, so let's look at another one. So let's get it off of this quarter and just go back to all dates. But I want to see all the transactions for this vendor. Click apply. And then here we go. We can see the list filtered by that payee. And if you realize, okay, I'm done here, I want to go filter something else, you could click the X next to the vendor, and then it goes back to just all dates. And you could filter anything else you need to. You could also filter the category. I only want to see automobile expenses for all dates. And now we're seeing all of the automobile expenses, including anything in the subcategory. So we've got fuel is a subcategory of automobile, so that's included in this list as well. So that could be useful to what you're trying to do. Now that we're here, let's say that I realize now from the vendor names, they're clearly all automobile expenses, but let's pretend that we realize, some of these are in the wrong category. Maybe all of them are in the wrong category, but you do not want to go into each expense and update the category one by one. Okay, so there is a quicker way. What we can do is check off. So let's say the first 3 rows, we don't want them in that category of fuel. We can select those rows and come up here to batch actions. So select the rows, batch actions, categorize selected. So now we can select the category that we want these 3 to go into. Now, it's going to move all 3 into this category. So if you're trying to move them all into different categories, then that's not going to work. So if you want all 3 are going to get moved over to the same category, then this is where you could do this idea. So you can select your category. You could click the arrow to see the full list, or if you already know the name of it, you could just start typing right away. And let's say, so here I want to see my list. So let's say it was really for job expenses. So we'll select job expenses and click apply. So now Chin's Gas and Oil is now off the list because they're no longer, I'm still filtering for automobile and they're no longer in automobile. But if you're saying, well, now I want to go see those where they are now, just click either the X to get rid of automobile or just go to your filter button. And let's see, you could either filter by Chin, and you could type right into this box to filter your list. So we could filter for Chin's Gas and Oil, apply, and then it'll bring up everything for Chin. And here we can see those 3 are for job expenses. Another way we could have done it is we know the category it went into. So let's say I want to filter for that category. So I will type in job expenses. It filters the list for me. And there, now we've selected job expenses, click apply. All right, and now it's giving me all the job expenses, including their subcategories, because I selected, that's because I selected job expenses, which was the parent category. So here we see, there they are, Chin's Gas and Oil, job expenses, there it is. But let's say I don't want to see all these subcategories. I just want to see one subcategory. So we'll come back to filter, come to category, go down to job expenses. So see how it's all indented here. So these are all subcategories of job expenses. So let's say I don't want to see all of this. I just want to see equipment rental, or I just want to see job materials or plants and soil. So let's say I want to see a specific category, and then it'll only show me that subcategory. So again, if you select a parent category, so job expenses was all the way to the left, I selected this parent category, so then it showed me everything in job expenses and everything in its subcategories. If you just want to see a specific one, then you could just select that specific sub-account of job expenses. And in this case, there aren't any for cost of labor, but then it'll just show you for that subcategory. Okay, so those are the main things that you can do with the expense center of the menu. You don't have to come here every day, every time you log into QuickBooks. You can if you want to, but if you like to use it this way, you absolutely can use it as often as you'd like. And it also depends on your business. So not everyone needs to come here, but certain businesses will probably need to come here more often than others. But you can also definitely use it if you're trying to resolve something or find an answer about a bill or expense. You might figure out the answer by coming here and either sorting or filtering or selecting certain rows to see the total for the selected rows that you're curious about. Okay, now actually before we go, there's something that you probably won't need to use very often, but if you do, it's helpful just to know about it. So we'll end here. If we come to the far right, we have our small settings gear. So there's things that you can do in the large settings gear, but in this one, we're just going to the small version of the settings. And here you can change what you want to see. So depending on what you need for your business, there might be certain columns here that would be great for you to see right away on the table. Now you don't have to click into it. You just want to be able to see it right away. So notice that you can select which columns you want to see, which ones you don't. You can click the blue show more. And so here we're seeing all the columns that are currently visible. They're checked off here. Let's say if we we don't really care about the memo. Maybe we don't need to see that. There's other columns that are more important. We could uncheck that. Sometimes that's very helpful to be able to see the memo, but let's say in your case, you don't really need to see that, but you would like to see if a bill or expense, if it has an attachment attached to it.